Having taken our 37-foot sailboat Florence all the way north to Svalbard in the high Arctic, now we need to sail south before the winter weather closes in.
Between us and the coastline of northern Norway, we have 600 miles of open Arctic Ocean to cross. In an area of the world where the weather is anything but predictable.
We are Amy and Matt, and this is the reality of short-handed offshore sailing in the far north.
The time has come for us to leave the shores of Svalbard and sail 600 miles back to northern Norway. We're leaving about a week sooner than we really want to be, but that's because the weather at the moment is the first time we've seen something which has some northerlies, or at least not southerlies in it, because we don't want southerlies, we don't want to have to beat our way back to Norway. So at the moment the forecast is not ideal, but it looks like it could be uncomfortable out there rather than dangerous. So we're setting off with some northerly breeze, and then it looks like it's going to go around to the west and we'll have a fairly fast reach, and at the end of the forecast it looks like we're liable to run out of wind, which is a better way to be than looking like we're going to run into a lot more wind at the end of the forecast. So if we're slower, all it means is we run out of wind and we have to motor a bit more at the end. The worst part of the trip looks to be about 48 hours in, where we're expecting 20 gusting 26 on the forecast. But in reality, we found when we're out at sea, normally we get more, the average is what the gust reads on the forecast, and we get gusts above that. So we're expecting a little bit more than that. But the thing that's going to make it really uncomfortable is the sea state. And although it's not very big, it's only 1.5 metres, it's got a 4.5 second period. So that means that the waves are really close together. So it's going to be really choppy, and it's dead on our beam, with the wind on our beam as well, which means we're going to roll a huge amount. Each wave's going to hit us and really roll Florence. We know those conditions can be uncomfortable. I've taken a seasickness tablet already because I think this trip's going to be a little bit more bumpy than what we're used to. But hopefully that's the worst part, and that should last only for about 12 hours. And then once we're through that, we should be into much calmer conditions as we approach the Norwegian coast.
Quite often the weather forecast changes and the time to go appears very quickly, so we don't have much time to prepare. But luckily today we've had a few hours where we've just been able to anchor and better prepare the boat and ourselves for what is potentially going to be a bit of a rough passage. So I've been prepping some food to try and make our lives a bit easier when we are sailing. We've got things that are really easy to grab, like just bake some part-baked rolls and roasted some veg, and then the veg that isn't cooked, I've at least been able to wash and chop it, because it makes a massive difference when we're sailing. Even just the simple act of washing and chopping the veg means that we don't have to be down here for as long being thrown around, and I also don't have to get a knife out when I am cooking and try and use a sharp knife when I'm getting thrown across the boat. Because of the weather forecast, we also know what direction the boat is going to be heeling, and we're going to be leaning over a lot. So we know that when we try to get anything out of the cupboards on the uphill or the windward side of the boat, it's really hard because you open the cupboard and everything falls out on top of you. So we've actually moved a load of food that is easy to cook and easy to eat over to this side of the boat, which might hopefully make our lives a bit easier.
We've also prepared the sea berths so that if we're feeling a bit rough on deck, when we come down below, the bed's already, we can just jump into it instead of having to move around and get things out of cupboards. We've actually made up both of them. This is going to be the most comfortable berth because that's a downhill side, so you'll be being tipped into it. But on Florence, that one's actually slightly narrower and slightly shorter than the one on this side. So Amy will be perfectly comfortable on this one, but every time I try sleeping on that side, I end up with a crick in my neck. So even though this is going to be the uphill side, we've prepared this side as well, and I'll just sleep in here, supported by the lee cloth to stop me falling out of bed, and this berth's wider and longer, so it's a bit more comfortable, for me anyway. But of course we won't both be sleeping at the same time, because one of us will always be out there keeping watch for the next 5 days.
So it's time to leave. You may notice that a few clips in this episode are of lower quality than usual. This is because we unfortunately had a problem with a corrupt SD card in one of our cameras during the passage. Luckily, it's only one of the 4 cameras that we use, but we still needed to include some of those clips to tell the story.
The winds within the fjords are often affected by the surrounding mountains and glaciers. Right now, it is a lot more windy than forecast, so we were straight into reefing the mainsail. But once we get offshore, we should see the lighter breezes the forecast is showing.
Wow, what a beautiful evening for a sail. It was a little bit breezy when we first set off, and because we know there's more wind further ahead down the track, it did make us feel a little bit apprehensive. You always worry if you've picked the right weather window, whether you should be going or shouldn't. But once we got out here, the breeze has eased off. We're now back under full sail instead of reefed down. It's glorious blue skies, and we're just reaching out to sea, close reaching out to sea to get clear of some shallows, and then we'll turn south and point the bow back towards mainland Norway. It's been a nervous few days looking at the weather, but yeah, once you get out here on a day like today, those nerves and worries just kind of ease away. You just get to enjoy the sailing. Not going to get to enjoy the sunset. That is not going to happen for a lot further until we get a lot further south. We're still in the land of the midnight sun, so night watches still need sunglasses. And there's not much forecast for any rain, so it should be quite a pleasant trip to start with. Probably going to get foggy in the middle though. But yeah, what a beautiful evening to start it. Amy's down in bed, hopefully she gets a nice rest. It's always difficult to get rested at the start of a passage when your body's not used to being on watch for a while. Yeah, but a nice smooth start, it's always the best way.
It's now 1 o'clock in the morning and we've only been sailing for a few hours, but we have already lost sight of Svalbard. We're actually still sailing alongside the coast, but we've been enveloped by some fog, so the visibility is pretty poor at the moment. But as you can see, it's 1 o'clock in the morning and it's still light enough to see, even though it's foggy. So although we're taking night watches, we're not really having any proper night watches on this passage because we're going to have 24-hour daylight for the entire trip, which definitely makes life easier on board. It makes it much easier to obviously keep a lookout and change any sails if we need to. It feels a shame to be leaving Svalbard earlier than we intended. I've really loved our time up here. It's just an incredible place for the scenery and the wildlife, and obviously getting close to all of the glaciers that we have been able to. It's just been so different to anywhere else that we've visited. But I think the trouble is that if we let this weather window slide by, then we're not able to go ashore at the moment because we don't have the rifle on board anymore. And we just spend our time moving between anchorages, trying to get shelter from the weather and thinking about the weather to leave. So it's definitely the right decision to go, but it is also a shame not to see more of the place.
Well, that's very different to when I went to bed, from blue skies to fog.
Breeze is starting to pick up a bit now, and the sea state's not bad, it's just short. So the waves are just slapping the side of Florence, bursting up, and then we've had a couple dump in the cockpit here. But so far it's not as bad as I thought it would be in terms of being lumpy, but tomorrow is supposed to be the worst day, so we'll see how it goes. We're down to 2 reefs in the main and a staysail at the moment, which is okay, but the breeze is all over the place, like from 18 knots up to 25 knots. So, but at least we've got a beautiful sunny day to see where we're going. Yeah, and we're making fast progress. Florence is doing 7 knots, although we've got a bit of tide against us, so 6.5 knots over the ground. Not too bad, but a bit bumpy. A little bit rolly for cooking dinner. Amy's not feeling 100%, so it's down to me. And the technique appears to be, look out the window, when you see a big wave coming, hold the pan on the stove. We have actually borne off 20 degrees and eased the sails a little bit to slow down and try and make the motion a bit better, because when we were actually broadside onto them, this would have been impossible. The roast veg that Amy made before we left. So I go nicely with some pasta. And all I've got to do is heat it up. And even I'm capable of that. There was a badly timed wave, so it didn't all make it into the pan.
Soon felt better after a sleep and something to eat. I think it's actually the seasickness tablets that made me feel pretty ill. They always make me really drowsy and give me a headache, but then seasickness does that as well, so it's always really hard to tell which is the lesser evil, but I think this time I'd have been better off not taking them. Sea state hasn't been as bad as we expected. It's still quite short and steep waves, but they've not been throwing us around as much as we thought that they might do. And I've seen a maximum of about 25 knots on my watch this evening, which is not too bad at all really. It just means that we've been making great progress. We're onto the staysail and 2 reefs in the main. It'd actually be nice if this breeze would stay all the way to Norway. Unfortunately it's not going to. It's forecast to die off for a period tomorrow and then come in from another direction, but yeah, if we can sail the majority of this passage, I think that is a positive.
Well, the weather's a lot calmer this morning. It started to ease off overnight and the sea state's flattened out, so we shifted from the staysail to the larger Genoa and shaken one of the reefs out in the mainsail, but I'm just about to get the weather with the Iridium Go. Well, to start with, the good news is that the strong gusts that we were expecting later on today don't seem to be quite as strong on the latest forecast, and the sea state doesn't seem to be as rough either, so that's good news. So that says that we can make the decision to carry on towards the coast of Norway rather than ducking round to hide behind Bear Island over to the port side. But after today, the forecasts completely disagree between the European and the GFS weather models. The European thinks there'll be light winds for us to get all the way to the Norwegian coast, which would be great because we can sail there. But the GFS model thinks there's going to be no wind whatsoever, which would be a lot of motoring. So hopefully the European is more accurate, and that is what we've been seeing. The European has been more accurately matching what we've been seeing out on the water. So yeah, we've made the decision we're going to carry on sail all the way to Norway. And since it's light winds forecast for the next few hours, in order to make the most of the wind and get closer whilst there still is wind, I think I might shake this reef out of the mainsail and get the speed up a little bit. Right.
That's main sheet.
It wasn't long before the fog was back, so we turned on the radar to help us keep a lookout, and as the wind rose again, we put that reef back into the mainsail, switching between the Genoa and the smaller staysail to keep Florence suitably powered up as she sped south.
Thank you very much. That looks healthy. What have we got? It looks good.
It's about as healthy as you can make instant mashed potato and a tinned casserole. It's a long time since we had any fresh meat, but these tins are really quick. And this mashed potato, instant mashed potato, isn't quite so bad if you put some butter and also some whole grain mustard in there, and then we've topped it with some of the microgreens that sprouted before we left. So quick and warming, and hopefully a little bit healthy.
As forecast, we now started to run out of wind, so it was time to put up our biggest sail to try and keep making progress in the reducing breeze.
What followed was a period of very unstable weather. Lots of sail changes were required to keep Florence moving forward, but at times, as the sea state smoothed out, we had some great spinnaker sailing.
It's so calm. We were just sailing along, and on the horizon I saw this massive silhouette. And I couldn't tell whether it was an upside down hull or what, or a sleeping whale. So we turned on the engine motors over this way instead of sailing where we wanted to go. And it's a dead sperm whale, pretty small sperm whale, with thousands of seagulls around it. So this one's just longer than Florence, so it must be about maybe 12 meters long. Big enough to see from 2 miles away on a flat, calm day like today, just sticking up above the water like that. It really smells on the leeward side of it. We just come round to the windward side because it stinks to leeward. It looks like it's been here a while. There's bird poo all over the top of it.
Sperm whales are the third largest animal on the planet. Only the fin whale and blue whales are larger. And they swim throughout all the oceans of the world, from the warm equatorial waters all the way to the edge of the Arctic and Antarctic pack ice. They can dive to over 2,000 metres, hold their breath for up to 2 hours, and their huge skulls contain the largest brains on the planet, at around 5 times bigger than ours.
So what we're going to do is we're going to put a line around his tail, attach him to the back of Florence. We're going to sail back up north, and then we're going to entice some polar bears, and we'll get some really cool shots of polar bears, yeah?
How long to get to Svalbard?
Towing a whale like this, quite a lot of drag. Might take a couple of weeks or more. Unfortunately, you're not allowed to do that because that'll be enticing a polar bear, and you're not allowed to do that. But yeah, that would be a bait for a polar bear, wouldn't it? They'd love it.
Well, here we are coming to the end of this passage. You can see the coast of mainland Norway again. Still got snow on the mountains, not as much as there was when we left. But this last 24 hours have been really slow, like drifty, nice calm sea conditions, but so little wind. We knew there wouldn't be much wind. It's supposed to be more now that we're approaching the coast on the forecast, but we're still just drifting along at 3.5 knots. So it's taking a lot of patience, but we're nearly there. Got about 70 miles left to go to the port of Harstad, where we're going to check back into Norway and back into Schengen. But yeah, it's interesting to see the sun so low in the sky again as well. It's really made a difference as we're heading south, just the 500 or 600 miles from Svalbard down to here, how much lower the sun is in the sky during the night. Still haven't had a sunset or a sunrise yet. That is to come. But yeah, an absolutely glorious morning to be sailing out here in these gentle conditions. Although having had these gentle conditions for so long, albeit in fog, ready to get there, I think.
What an evening to be out sailing. Flat water, got full sail up, Genoa staysail and full main. and we've been ghosting along at like 2 knots for most of the day, but the breeze has just picked up. Now we're doing 4 or 5 knots quite happily. Still got 20 miles to go, but it's such an enjoyable 20 miles when the water's flat, the boat's not getting thrown around, we can sit and relax in the cockpit and just enjoy the view on the way. We've emailed the police in the check-in port that we're going to, and it's a Sunday today so they're not open, but there was still somebody there to respond to emails, and we can go and check in there tomorrow. Seemed very friendly, just said come in any time between 8 and 3:30. So yeah, get there, get some sleep, have a relaxed morning, and then go and check in, and we're ready to start exploring back down the coast of mainland Norway again.
So we've got the pizza, Amy.
Got the last of the fresh veg, and then some jarred peppers, obviously cheese, sun-dried tomato, the veggie pizza.
Sounds good. That looks good.
That brings us to the end of this passage. 600 miles from Svalbard to Harstad on the northwestern coast of Norway.
Waiting for a weather window at the start of a passage is always an anxious time, and we had been worried about finding a good window for this passage from Svalbard to Norway, as the ocean is so exposed. But instead of too much wind, the biggest challenge was not enough.
From the forecast, we had feared that we would need to do a huge amount of motoring at the end of this passage. And we did motor for 19 hours in total, which is huge for us. But after speaking to others who made the passage at the same time, it seems that Florence's light wind sailing performance meant we used far less diesel than most boats.
Now that we've made it back to the mainland, we feel a weight of uncertainty and exposure has been lifted off our shoulders. And we're looking forward with excitement to the next section, exploring the fjords of Norway as we hop south down this magnificent coastline.
Next time, we work the tide south through narrow channels to a fjord that cuts so far inland through Norway, we reach Sweden.
For extra updates in between these bi-weekly videos, and to find out what we're up to in real time, head over to Patreon and join the crew.
Continuing our voyage on Florence would not be possible without the support of our patrons. Thank you to all of you, and especially to our star patrons.